Silence is not emptiness. Many people assume intelligence sounds loud. They imagine smart individuals constantly explaining, debating, correcting, and proving their knowledge. But in real life, you often notice the opposite. The most thoughtful person in the room is usually the quiet one, observing, listening, and speaking only when necessary. This is not shyness and not lack of confidence. It's processing. The human brain has limited attention, and intelligent people naturally spend more of it understanding than expressing. While others rush to react, they first analyze context, intention, and consequence. So silence becomes part of thinking, not absence of thinking. Talking feels productive because it creates immediate feedback. You get reactions, agreement, or attention. But thinking requires delay. Smart individuals prefer delayed accuracy over instant expression. They value being correct more than being quick, and that automatically reduces how often they speak. So this video is not about becoming quiet for appearance. It's about understanding why deeper thinking naturally leads to fewer words. When you see silence as mental activity instead of emptiness, communication starts to look completely different. Listening is data collection. Every conversation contains information beyond the words being spoken. Tone, hesitation, speed, emotional reaction, all of these reveal meaning. People who speak continuously miss most of this because their attention stays focused on what they want to say next instead of what is actually happening. Intelligent individuals treat conversations like observation, not performance. While others prepare replies, they gather data. They notice contradictions, intentions, and patterns. The more they listen, the clearer the situation becomes. Because of this, they don't need to interrupt often. They already understand where the discussion is going. Talking early reduces accuracy. When you respond before fully understanding, you lock yourself into a position that might later prove wrong. Smart people avoid this trap. By waiting longer, they respond fewer times but with higher precision. One well-placed sentence can replace 10 rushed ones. So silence is not passive behavior. It is active analysis. Listening extends thinking time, and extended thinking improves judgment. Speaking less is simply the natural result of wanting more complete information before forming conclusions. Thinking happens before speaking. Many conversations run on reaction. Someone says something, and an immediate reply follows. The goal becomes speed, not clarity. But intelligent people insert a gap between hearing and answering. That small pause is where thinking actually happens. During that pause, the brain checks multiple layers. Is the statement accurate? What does the person really mean? What outcome will my response create? Instead of responding to words alone, they respond to context. This extra processing takes time, and naturally reduces how often they talk. Quick replies often feel satisfying but create unnecessary problems. A sentence spoken in seconds may require minutes of explanation later. Smart individuals prefer the reverse. A few extra seconds of silence now to avoid confusion afterward. Fewer words, clearer meaning. So when you notice someone pausing before speaking, it isn't hesitation. It's filtration. They're removing incomplete thoughts before they leave their mouth, and that filter automatically limits quantity while improving quality. Words create consequences. Every spoken sentence has an effect. It can influence opinions, trigger emotions, start conflict, or change decisions. Many people speak as if words disappear after they are heard, but in reality they continue working long after the conversation ends. Intelligent individuals stay aware of this ripple effect. Because they anticipate consequences, they measure speech carefully. Before saying something, they mentally simulate outcomes. Will this help? Will it escalate? Is it necessary? If a sentence adds no value or risks misunderstanding, they simply don't say it. Silence becomes the safer and often smarter option. Frequent talkers treat conversation as expression. Thoughtful communicators treat it as action. Action requires responsibility. The more responsibility you feel for outcomes, the more selective you become with language. That selectivity naturally reduces volume. So speaking less is not lack of opinion. It is awareness that communication shapes reality. When you understand that words cannot be taken back once released, restraint becomes logical, not forced. Confidence doesn't need constant proof. People often talk more when they feel the need to prove competence. They explain repeatedly, add extra details, and defend every small point because silence feels like losing authority. The conversation becomes a performance of knowledge instead of an exchange of ideas. Genuine confidence behaves differently. When someone trusts their understanding, they don't feel pressure to display it continuously. They speak when contribution is useful and stay quiet when it is not. Their identity isn't threatened by pauses, so they don't fill them unnecessarily. Intelligent individuals usually lean toward this quieter confidence. They don't measure self-worth by airtime in a discussion. Instead, they focus on whether their input changes anything meaningful. If the answer is no, silence is efficient. Energy stays reserved for moments where it matters. So speaking less is often a signal of security, not insecurity. The person is not holding back ideas, they simply don't need to broadcast every thought to feel certain of their ability. They separate thinking from reacting. Most conversations run on reaction loops. A statement triggers an emotion, the emotion triggers words, and the discussion moves forward without much reflection. This keeps dialogue fast but often inaccurate. Intelligent people try to break this loop by inserting reflection before response. They notice their first impulse but don't immediately express it. Instead, they ask whether the reaction comes from logic or from mood. Many thoughts disappear during this check because they were temporary feelings rather than useful contributions. What remains is calmer and clearer, so fewer sentences are needed. This habit also prevents escalation. Quick reactions often intensify disagreements, while delayed responses reduce them. By not reacting instantly, they avoid unnecessary arguments and preserve the direction of the conversation. Silence becomes a stabilizing force. So speaking less is partly emotional regulation. It shows control over response timing. When reactions are filtered, communication becomes intentional rather than automatic, and intentional communication rarely requires many words. They value precision over volume. In many discussions, people equate more words with better explanation. They repeat points in different forms hoping clarity will appear through quantity. But too many sentences often blur the main idea instead of sharpening it. Intelligent communicators aim for the opposite, fewer words with higher accuracy. Before speaking, they compress thoughts. They remove unnecessary details, examples, and filler until the core meaning remains. This mental editing reduces how long they talk, yet increases how well they are understood. A concise statement travels further than a long explanation because listeners can easily remember it. Precision also prevents contradiction. The more you speak, the higher the chance of saying something unclear or inconsistent. By limiting words, they reduce opportunities for confusion. Each sentence carries purpose instead of occupying space. So their silence is partly preparation. They spend more time shaping one clear message than delivering many scattered ones. The result feels calm and confident because every word is chosen rather than produced automatically. Observation gives them advantage. Quiet people often notice details others miss. When you're not busy preparing your next sentence, your attention becomes available for the environment, facial expressions, shifts in tone, reactions between others, and subtle changes in topic direction. These observations reveal what people truly think, not just what they say. Because of this awareness, intelligent individuals don't need to ask many questions or make many statements to understand a situation. They already gathered enough context silently. While others rely on constant talking to figure things out, they rely on watching patterns form naturally. Observation also helps timing. Instead of speaking randomly, they choose the exact moment when their words will be heard and accepted. One sentence delivered at the right time influences more than many sentences delivered at the wrong time. Timing reduces effort while increasing impact. So speaking less increases informational advantage. Silence frees attention, attention improves understanding, and understanding reduces the need for excessive communication. They don't fear being misunderstood immediately. Many people talk continuously because they want instant clarity. If a small misunderstanding appears, they rush to explain more and more, trying to control how others perceive them. This creates long conversations where the main message gets buried under reassurance. Intelligent individuals tolerate temporary misunderstanding. They understand that clarity develops over time, through actions and consistent behavior, not constant explanation. Because of this, they don't chase immediate approval in every moment. They allow silence to do part of the communication. This patience shortens speech. Instead of correcting every assumption, they correct only important ones. Minor impressions are allowed to pass because they don't affect the real outcome. Over-explaining is avoided, and discussions remain focused. So speaking less is partly trust in process. They trust that understanding doesn't always require instant words, and that selective clarification communicates stronger than continuous defense. Fewer words, more meaning. So the pattern becomes clear. Smart people are not quiet because they have less to say. They are quiet because they filter what is worth saying. Listening gathers information, pauses improve accuracy, observation sharpens timing, and confidence removes the need for constant proof. Fewer sentences are simply the natural result of deeper processing. Talking a lot feels productive, but productivity in communication is measured by effect, not volume. One precise statement that changes understanding is more powerful than many sentences that only fill silence. Intelligent communicators aim for impact, not airtime. This doesn't mean silence is always superior. The real skill is intentional speech, knowing when words add value and when they only add noise. When speech becomes purposeful, quantity automatically decreases while influence increases. So the goal isn't to force yourself to speak less. The goal is to think more before speaking. When thinking deepens, words naturally shrink, and communication becomes clearer, calmer, and far more effective.